The first time I realized that my father wasn't the man I thought he was, it felt like the ground beneath me cracked open. I was 18, fresh out of high school, and staring at the future I had been preparing for since childhood. For years, my parents had spoken about a college fund, something that symbolized hope, opportunity, and sacrifice. It wasn't just money in an account, it was the promise that all the late nights I spent studying, the clubs I joined, the volunteering I did, all of it was leading somewhere. But when the acceptance letter finally came and I asked my dad how we'd handle the tuition, the truth unraveled like a nightmare I couldn't wake from. He told me there was no money. At first, I thought I had misheard him. I laughed nervously, waiting for him to admit it was a bad joke. But he didn't laugh. Instead, his face tightened with that familiar mixture of frustration and defiance, and he said words that would haunt me for years. I used it. I had debts. You'll figure it out. Don't act ungrateful. Ungrateful. That word seared through me like fire. For 18 years, I had lived believing that the sacrifices my parents made were for me, for my future. And suddenly, it was all gone, siphoned into a hole of loans, credit cards, and choices I had no part in making. My dad didn't just empty my college fund, he emptied my trust, my sense of safety, and the foundation of our relationship. I tried to process it, to breathe through the panic rising in my chest. How could I pay for college now? My mom, quietly sitting beside him, avoided my eyes. She had known, I realized. She had known for months, maybe years, and said nothing. The betrayal doubled in weight. I wasn't angry just because the money was gone. I was angry because the people I thought would protect me were the ones who had taken everything away. Still, I bit back my tears. I told myself I could work, apply for scholarships, take out loans. But in the back of my mind, I kept replaying his words, "Don't act ungrateful." As though I owed him gratitude for dismantling my future. The first semester of college became a battlefield. I juggled 2 part-time jobs, studied until my eyes burned, and lived in constant fear of financial ruin. Every time I saw my dad, he reminded me how lucky I was that he had even tried to set money aside once. He spun the narrative so well that sometimes I questioned myself. Maybe I was ungrateful. Maybe I was too demanding. Maybe it was selfish to expect him to keep a promise. But when the final blow came, I knew it wasn't me. It was him. Halfway through my second year, I discovered he hadn't just emptied the account, he had drained it while lying to me, still pretending it was safe. He had been making payments on luxury items, personal loans, and even vacations. And when I confronted him with evidence, instead of apologizing, he erupted. He shouted that I was disrespectful, that I didn't understand the pressures of being a man, that I should be grateful he even kept a roof over my head. And then came the words that would drag us into a courtroom. If you think I owe you something, take me to court. Let's see who they believe. I didn't want to sue my own father. But he left me no choice. The case began as a civil dispute, breach of fiduciary duty, misuse of funds meant for my education. My lawyer explained that since the account had been set up in my name, with me as the beneficiary, I had a legal right to pursue the matter. Still, nothing prepared me for the emotional hell that came with it. Walking into that courtroom, seeing my father on the opposite side, it felt like tearing open a wound that would never heal. He sat there in a crisp suit, calm, collected, spinning a story about how he had always intended to pay me back, how circumstances had forced his hand, how I was the ungrateful child trying to destroy him over a misunderstanding. He told the court that I had never appreciated the roof he put over my head, the meals he provided, the car rides to school. He painted me as spoiled, entitled, and heartless. And in that moment, as his words echoed across the silent courtroom, I realized this wasn't just about money. This was about power, about control, about a man so terrified of admitting his failures that he would rather vilify his own child than face the truth. The trial stretched on for weeks. Witnesses were called, family members, friends, even my mother. She tried to defend him, her voice trembling as she claimed he had done what he thought was best. But the evidence was overwhelming. Bank statements, receipts, records of withdrawals. Piece by piece, the image of the responsible father he tried to project crumbled. Still, the hardest part wasn't the legal battle. It was the emotional war raging inside me. I sat there listening to my father tell strangers that I was ungrateful, that I had turned against him, that I didn't love him. And though I knew it was manipulation, it cut deep. I wanted to scream that I never asked for luxury, that all I wanted was honesty, security, and the chance to chase my dreams without being sabotaged by the very person meant to protect them. The climax came when my father took the stand. My lawyer cross-examined him, calmly dismantling his narrative piece by piece. When confronted with the bank statements showing thousands spent on vacations and luxury goods, he faltered. His voice cracked. For the first time, the mask slipped, and the courtroom saw him as I did, a man drowning in excuses, desperate to blame anyone but himself. The judge's ruling was clear. My father had misused funds intended for my education. He was ordered to repay a portion of the money, though I knew I would never see the full amount. The law could only do so much. What it couldn't do was mend the fracture in our family, the trust that had been shattered beyond repair. As I left the courthouse that day, I felt a mixture of relief and devastation. I had won, technically. But at what cost? The man who once tucked me into bed, who taught me to ride a bike, who clapped the loudest at my school plays, he was now just a stranger bound to me by blood and a long trail of broken promises. The truth is, winning in court doesn't erase the pain. It doesn't give back the years of stress, the sleepless nights, the self-doubt planted by someone you loved. But it does give you clarity. It shows you that being ungrateful isn't demanding accountability. It's allowing someone to hurt you again and again without ever speaking up. Today, I look back not with bitterness, but with strength. I paid my way through college with grit and determination. I built a future despite him, not because of him. And if my story does anything, I hope it reminds people that family doesn't give someone the right to betray you. Love without respect is just manipulation. So if you've ever been made to feel ungrateful for standing up for yourself, remember this: gratitude should never come at the expense of your dignity, your dreams, or your future. And to anyone listening right now who has faced betrayal, whether from family, friends, or anyone you trusted, know this: you are not ungrateful for demanding better. You are courageous. You are worthy. And your story, just like mine, can be one of resilience instead of ruin. If this story moved you, if it resonated with your own experiences or made you think about the importance of standing up for yourself, then please take a moment to like this video, share it with others, and subscribe to the channel. Your support helps us continue telling stories that matter, stories that shed light on the hidden battles so many of us fight. And most importantly, let's keep this conversation alive, because no one should ever be silenced by the word ungrateful.